Hi, welcome to Chapter 5, Apply What You Know. We have a couple questions. First question is, Gene is the president of a 5-unit restaurant. His quick service operations offer both dine-in and drive-through service. Gene is considering keeping his operations open an additional hour per night. Based on his revenue estimates, the following data represents the incremental sales he believes he will achieve in each of his restaurants if he stays open an additional hour per day. So basically, idea in here, he wants to open his restaurants additional an hour every night, and that's how much is going to generate additional revenue. And we assume that product cost is 30% and other variable costs are 45%. And question is asked basically, what is an additional amount per unit that Gene could contribute to his fixed cost and total contribution of fixed costs, and what additional factors should Gene consider? As usual, please stop here, try to solve everything yourself and come back. Now I'm assuming you did your own. Let's do calculations. I'm just adding additional revenue here. Production cost or product cost is going to be additional revenue times 0.3, which is 30%. Let's pull this down. It's going to automatically calculate. Similarly, additional revenue is going to be 45%. Same thing we calculate for each unit. And contribution, the fixed cost for each unit is going to be additional revenue minus product cost minus other costs. Now, to total costs, we're gonna sum up all additional units. Okay, just be sure that this covers everything. Okay, now first question is what is the additional amount per unit, which is calculated here, the first 5 lines, and the total amount of contribution of fixed cost, which is the basically total of contributions. And now what additional factors should Gene consider? Now that could vary from person to person, but the few of the things I can think of is when you add additional hours, you have to think about, for example, scheduling, right? What kind of impact on employees of extending operation hours? Like, for example, will should exceed 8 hours, right? If they exceed 8 hours or more, how are you going to arrange those shifts? And what about the managers? Working hours to be extended beyond which they used to. Are they going to think is fair? Are they going to ask additional compensation, for example? What about safety of employees, right? Because they're going to start to work additional hour, which is during late night hours, most likely. Similarly, security of operational assets, both for the guests and facility and financial assets like a cash, needs to be protected with this extending operating hours. However, when we think about it, hotels historically been open 24-hour operations, right? And increasingly, food service places also extending their hours because more and more American workers working later and staying up later than ever. And many quick service restaurants are responding by extending hours. So it's becoming a trend. There was actually research showing that quick service restaurants such as Taco Bell, Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's, and etc. They were generating almost 7% of their sales between the hours of between the 9 p.m. to midnight. So, but as a future restaurant managers, you need to start thinking about this kind of issues and how it's going to affect your properties. But from the mathematical perspective, this is how it's been calculated. Let's look at the second one. Chuck is the revenue manager for the Holiday Inn Express. 220 rooms, usually sells for 85% of the price of $141.50. Variable costs are $55. the director of sales and marketing comes with the proposal. It says they're gonna sell the 125 rooms to a group for $109 per room. Chuck believes that if the hotels wins this rooms bid, the sales of the remaining transient room for that day will ensure a sellout at the historical rate of $151.50 per room. And let's answer the questions. The questions are total revenue with the group, without the group, and total after variable cost room revenue, and after variable rooms income for both groups and non-groups, and what additional factors needs to be we need to think about. So as usual, please stop here and solve it yourself and come back after you solve it. Okay, hopefully you solve the question on your own, and let's go over one by one. First, we're gonna do without the group sales. Basically, there is no group, just a regular sale. How many rooms we sell? Now, we have a 220 rooms. However, it says our occupancy rate historically 85%. So most likely we are going to sell 187 rooms because of the 85%. And how much is the ADR? 141.50. That's once again average. So total room revenue is going to be this number times this, which is this. $26,460. Total variable cost is going to be how many rooms sold times 55. And net room revenue is going to be total room revenue, minus variable cost. So that is $16,175.50 is the net room revenue of without the group sale. Now let's look at the group sales. 125 rooms, and how much is it for $109? So in this case, total room revenue is going to be 125 times 109. And variable cost is going to be 125 times 55. And net room revenue from group is going to be this. Now, for the transients, Chuck believes that if the hotels wins this group rooms with the sale of remaining transient room for that, they will ensure a sellout. Basically, they're gonna sell all the rooms because we have a 220 room facility. So, I mean, you can write it down, or you can just basically 220 minus whatever the left room group, which is the 95 rooms, right? And it's gonna sell also historical rate of 141.5, $141.50, and total room revenue from this is going to be, and variable cost is going to be 55, and let's get also net room revenue, this minus this. Now let's also calculate the total rooms going to be 220, of course, and total room revenue is going to be this plus this. Okay, actually we can just pull all the way here. Now let's think about for a second. Is it good idea to with group or without group? That's the whole question, right? Without group, total room revenue is $26,460, but with the group is $27.67. So it's almost $600 more revenue. However, if you look at the room revenue, net room revenue, right, after the variable cost, we make more money, $16,175 compared to with group. We make almost $1,200 more than $1,200 actually. So if you look at this way, is it good idea to go with the rooms with this group sale? Apparently not, right? And assumption here is Holiday Inn Express is a limited service property. Because of that, they heavily rely on net room revenue only. So in this case, without group sales, generate more money. If this was a full service property, then you might want to consider, what about selling 33 rooms, gonna generate additional money for, like, from food and beverage and drinking and bar and spa and etc. That could be a different question. But in this case, actually, without group sale, generate better net room revenue. So you shouldn't always focus on revenue itself, but in the end, how much money gonna be in your pocket. Okay. Thank you.